Hey Void. So, I mentioned I was going to be working my way through some more of the Godzilla series, so, well, I decided to get right onto that with the second movie in the Showa era, Godzilla Raids Again, or Gojira no Gyakushu. So, this one came out just the year after and was made very quickly. Essentially capitalizing on the success of the first one, they wanted to keep the momentum going, and while the second film lacks a lot of the darker imagery of the first, the main creators still wanted to keep some of the allegories in there, and so it was still a more serious film than what happens much later in the Showa era. Now, this film also came out in 1955, and pretty much just right on the tails. It was pretty much rushed right into production after the success of Gojira. And this film also introduced the first kaiju fight in the Godzilla series by adding the monster Anguirus, which has always been kind of a fan favorite one for me. I've always had a soft spot for Anguirus, particularly in his later showings. But it's good to see the original. Now, the Americanized version I grew up with. I had it on VHS, and I don't know if it was the first Godzilla film I had seen, but it was definitely one of them. It was either that one, King Kong vs. Godzilla, or, well, it was Godzilla vs. Monster Zero is what it was called, but Invasion of the Astro Monster. One of those ones was my first. It was so young, I don't even remember which one it was. Probably King Kong vs. Godzilla, if I'm thinking. But this one was, I'm pretty sure I got it actually from like my grandfather's shop, because I remember the box art very particularly for it. Now, the dubbing in that one wasn't the greatest, even though it had one of the first roles by George Takei. But they added a lot of narration. So if you're seeing the Japanese version for the first time, it's a lot quieter. Because they have Tsukuoka essentially narrating the entire movie unnecessarily. I guess they didn't think American audiences would understand what their industry of fishing, being spotters for a fishing industry. But it's weird just hearing him narrate like every action he's doing in that version. So I do prefer the subtitled one pretty heavily. That one's almost so goofy. It's and also they lose some of the actual humor over the main character's friend Kobayashi's romantic issues. Well, I digress. So, plot. This one follows primarily two pilots who specialize in essentially looking for schools of bonito, tuna, big fish to guide their fishing trips to. Well, Kobayashi's plane suffers a malfunction and has to put down on an island way out and is in trouble. So, Tsukuoka goes down to pick him up, and well, they hear some noise and find two monsters wrestling on the island that they're on. Yeah, they just jump right into it. This one gives a little explanation. They do indicate that the Gojira in this film is different than the one that perished in the previous. This movie does have a few carries over between the two, mostly Dr. Yamane returning to comment on what happened in Tokyo, as these ones are happening in Osaka. Well, those monsters rumble for a while, but then disappear, but now everyone's on high alert, and have learned that bright lights may attract Gojira. So, they may issue blackouts, but, well, only works so well. Particularly when a group of criminals that were being transported breaks out and accidentally causes an explosion, luring the monster right to the city. And the flares that were supposed to lead Gojira away have brought Anguirus in, and so the fight begins. And even after one of the monsters triumphs, I'm sure you know who. Really, it's a Gojira movie. It's of course it's Godzilla. Well, I guess King Kong vs. Godzilla kind of makes it more nebulous, but I digress. You can assume the victor. then they have to contend with dealing with Gojira and finding a way, since the Oxen Destroyer from the previous film is not available. So, it's a fun movie. It's definitely lacks the harder punches of the first one, but has a entertaining little romance angle for Kobayashi's, or as Mr. Groom, as a lot of people start calling him. So that adds a little bit of levity into the proceedings, and Anguirus' design is always... I really like it, and his roar has got to be one of my favorite kaiju roars of all time, so just that mournful cry that he lets out, it's my favorite. So, I do really enjoy this film, though it's definitely has its flaws. It is a very slow-paced film, but it's not a very long film at not even an hour and a half, so it does go by still pretty quick. For me, I could give it a 7 MacGuffins. It's fun. And it's definitely an iconic piece of kaiju history. Alright, so that's all on this one. Don't know when I'm going to get to the next film in the collection. I've got about 7 more reviews, at least, or maybe 8 before I get a chance to, since I just go in order that I watched them. So, and I haven't had a chance to watch another one yet. So, might be a little bit before I get back to the collection here, but it's still intended. I hopefully will be getting through all of this before too long. It is still 15 movies, and I'm going to be slotting in a few adjacent ones. I already reviewed Rodan back in my first year, so if you look, you can find that one. And I reviewed Shin Gojira at some point. But I will also be reviewing Mothra, hopefully King Kong Escapes, Frankenstein versus Conquers the World, a few others along the way. If I could find it, I'd actually like to get around to actually seeing Varan the Unbelievable. I've never actually seen that one, so. Well, all for right now. I will see you later.